And welcome to the K-Files. JP and myself are going to be with you for the next hour, bringing you some cases and talking about hot and nows and all kinds of things. And so we hope you will pay attention and help us out. So, and I've gotten 2 more comments this week about the show. 2 different people said, I love that K-Files show. You know, we don't hear a lot because we don't take a lot of calls on the show. So we don't know who's watching, but we do know that I do believe it's highly watched and people really enjoy. People want to know what's going on in the community. Number one, they want to know where these crimes are being committed and want to know about some old cases that have not been solved, and they also are just curious to see if it's somebody they know. Because one of the people that contacted me this week, they said, she asked me a question, I'm not going to go into that, but she said, I think I know him. And so, you know, a lot of it's wanting to see if there's a case with people you know. So anyway, we'll get started this morning. We were supposed to have today, I believe, Edgecombe County come on and talk about but I think we'll push him to maybe next week. I think he had something on the agenda, but we want to talk about the case that was solved recently and get some more details, because I've heard a lot about that too. I think the word has been put out that the case was solved. So anyway,
I do have a question.
Okay.
So now, what happened in Rocky Mount recently, this past week, with one of the schools and some kind of a social media message? I mean, you know, I'm down in the southern end of the county, but I could only find out what little bit I could find online.
A 13-year-old female decides she wants to play games. It was all a hoax, a prank. But you can't take it that way.
No,
you can't
cannot.
just think you can't treat it that way. The authorities know that they have to take every threat seriously. But she was pranking. And now I know Rocky Mount Prep was one of the schools. They were going to close the school Monday. Because I think the prank happened over the weekend. They were going to close the school. They called her on Sunday. So the school opened as, you know, normal. But, you know, look what all of this was a prank. And this prank caused all of that. The whole school was going to close. Chaos. You know, pandemonium all over your prank. This is not funny. And I'm glad you brought it up. But there were several schools that she did this to. And she's in serious trouble, from what I hear. She's in serious trouble.
Yeah, that's not funny.
No.
When you go to scaring parents about the public safety of their children at school,
yes,
that's not funny.
And it's something about scaring the masses that makes it so serious. I mean, you can't do this to a school or a group like that without being in serious trouble. So don't try that at home. Don't do it, because you're going to be in as much trouble as she is right now. But I'm glad you mentioned that. Yes, she just issued a threat. And
you know, one of the things that I would love to see, and they do this in some states across the country, and they do it some places here in North Carolina. If it was up to me in Nash County, and I think Sheriff Stonefield's the same way, we would have a Nash County deputy in every public school.
yes.
In the county. I don't care if it's an elementary school, I don't care if it's a middle school, I don't care if it's a high school. Children are our most precious resource. There's not a business more important, there's not a bank more important, and those law enforcement officers, there's no better way to spend tax money than to protect your children. A lot of we have full-time SROs in middle schools and in high schools. And we should do the same thing in elementary schools.
Yes.
We should.
Well, how do you feel? We've had mixed emotions from hosts this week
Okay.
about them wanding the students at random. Do you think they should do them all?
Well, and when you go to the
Or
airport,
just
they
at
don't do
random?
everybody.
No, they don't.
I mean, it's the only people who have an issue with this is they choose to make it an issue.
Yes.
Because if you go to RDU Airport, they wand a fraction of people at random.
Yeah.
They go through people's bags at random.
Yes.
So, I mean, it's just a world that we live. I don't have a problem with it.
Right. Well, I don't either, and they were saying that, a couple of our hosts said, well, I feel like there's going to be backlash from parents, that they're profiling. Well, you should be glad, instead of worrying about profiling, you should be happy that kids are being protected.
That's right.
I mean, that's what you should be happy about.
Well, the whole
Not
point of
worry
doing
about it.
anything at random is to send a message to everybody. It could be you.
Mm-hmm.
So think about it before you try to smuggle in something to school or on an airplane or into a building that you shouldn't have. Because by doing it at random, you may be checked, you may not.
Right.
And the county probably doesn't have the financial resources to put a $100,000 screening device at every
Right.
school. I mean, they probably don't.
That's right. And they've got to get the kids on into school. They cannot do everybody, because those kids need to get in and get in their prospective classes and,
When they
work.
bring a canine dog into the school, they don't check every locker.
Right.
They walk him down the hall. They don't walk him down every hall. They just it's random.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's the case in Georgia that really, really bothers me, because the system failed that guy.
Mm-hmm.
The system really failed that guy.
Yeah.
And I really want, and I don't know how you would do this, but I want the mother to be charged with something. Even though she wasn't the one that gave him the gun. I mean, can you imagine giving, what was it, an AR-15,
Yeah.
was it?
For some reason, I was thinking it was like an AK-47.
Okay, see, I don't know enough about guns
I
to
thought it
know.
was an AK, some type of an AK model.
Well, he got it for Christmas.
Mhm.
13 years old. Oh my gosh, what in the world? And then he went and done something with it. The mother called the school. I guess she was not so drugged up that day that she could call. No, I don't think I think she has straightened her act up. I really do. But it doesn't change what that poor boy went through and in his life. I mean,
And
that
this
was
kid,
terrible.
this kid has been on the FBI's watch list
Yeah.
for 2 years. The FBI has been to this school to kind of touch base on this kid. Law enforcement have talked to his dad several times over the past. The system failed in so many ways.
Oh, it did.
On this,
Yes.
so many ways.
It really did.
So I hate his dad's being held accountable, but he should be. This is not just a random thing that just it wasn't on anybody's radar. This too many things failed in this.
Did
in
you
that
see how
situation.
his dad was acting in the courtroom? Oh my gosh, he was a wreck. He was a total wreck, because I guess he thought, well, I'm never gonna, be held accountable for what I've done, giving my 13-year-old a gun and also locking him out of the house, and the abuse the kid went through. It does not excuse what he did at school, though.
Totally
It does not excuse what he did. But, this is another case of the system failing him. And that was sad to me. But he looks like he, needed some help. He really does. So, anyway, that's some of our hot and nows this morning. Just kind of off the...
Well, let me throw one more thing at you to get your opinion on. Okay, so now for years we've had a Nash Rocky Mount school system. Now we have a Nash County school system and an Edgecombe County school system.
Right.
So for logistical purposes, because of jurisdiction, the Nash Rocky Mount School Board had contracted with Rocky Mount Police Department to provide services in the city because the Nash County couldn't go over into Edgecombe and Edgecombe couldn't go over into Rocky Mount Nash County side, okay? So it was just easier logistically to have the city do it. Now that the schools have been separated by county, Edgecombe County has chosen to take over all schools in the county, and it's been approved. That way you've only got one standard operating policy, one law enforcement agency that's been tasked with providing security at schools.
Right.
And now I'm of the opinion that Nash County should do the same over here. And nothing against Rocky Mount, but get Rocky Mount out of it.
Right.
And people say, well, they've been doing it for so long, just let them keep doing it. Well, what if we build a middle school in Nashville? And the next thing you know, what if we build a middle school in Bailey? Next thing you know, you're going to have multiple law enforcement agencies. I just think it's a slippery slope.
I think it is too.
Before it gets out of control, let the Nash County Sheriff's Office handle all the school security in the county.
I
just
agree.
like Nash County's doing it. That's my vote. If I was a county commissioner, that's what I would be supporting.
Right.
If I was a school board member, it's what I'd be supporting. And if I was the sheriff, that's what I would want.
Absolutely.
When it comes to
I agree.
training, when it comes to responding to an emergency, everybody's on the same page. You work with the guy, you train with the guy beside of you. You know, you're not worried about multiple agencies, how they do things. I just think it's a common sense.
I think it is too. And when something happens, you don't want any question. You want that agency to respond immediately and know who is supposed to do what, which I'm sure they know, but I agree with you. Totally.
You look at Wake County, they've got dozens of law enforcement agencies tasked. It's just a logistical nightmare.
Yeah, I don't know how you do that. I really don't successfully know how you do that.
I think before it continues to grow, populations continue to expand, give it to the sheriffs, let it be their baby, let them handle it, and keep moving forward.
Yep, I agree. I totally agree with that. All right, we're going to take our first break. We'll come right back with you right after this. Okay, welcome back to the K-Files. We do have JP's got a hot and now that he's going to talk to you about, fresh off the press.
Yeah, it seems there were 3 individuals that decided to terrorize the town of Wendell last night and injure 3 people. Corey Rashawn Walker Smith.
Wendell or Weldon?
Weldon. Did I say
Weldon.
Wendell?
That's all right.
Okay,
all right.
All right.
Weldon.
Let's see. Jatavius Malik Pierce and Jalen Andre Wolford. They decided to go to the town of Weldon last night around 6 o'clock p.m. on Washington Avenue and opened fire.
Gosh.
Their disregard for human life resulted in injuring 3 people, one of them being an 18-year-old who was inside of an apartment. He was shot in the chest. Another person was outside of the ABC store who was shot in the arm, and another innocent bystander was grazed. They decided to take off after committing this crime and throwing their weapon out the window, not realizing that multiple cameras, we talk about this all the time, multiple cameras and eyewitnesses saw their acts and witnessed them throw their guns out the window. They were stopped by local law enforcement after a chase and taken into custody. All are in jail under no bond, and they will seek an appearance this morning sometime before a judge. And again, that was last night around 6 o'clock in Weldon.
They terrorized the town.
That is exactly what they did.
And they need, and I'm glad, no bond. Very good. That's what they deserve. And you know what? It is nothing but stupidity now for you to think that you're not going to get caught on camera doing anything. If you pick your nose, it's going to be seen.
That's right.
Well, I'm glad they were caught, and just so sorry that these people had to be injured. That's just totally ridiculous. So where were they from?
It doesn't say.
It just said they came over to Weldon and just. That is.
Yeah, it doesn't say.
Well, anyway, the main thing is they were taken into custody and they have received no bond, and that is good news because that was an act of terror. Is what that was.
Well, shout out to the 911 operators that took that call and was able to coordinate a response with law enforcement and make contact with these guys and bring them into custody.
That's exactly right.
Great teamwork. Great teamwork.
Yes. Well, thank you for bringing that.
Shout out to the community for not being intimidated and scared and not being afraid to pick the phone up and sharing with what you saw, what you witnessed.
That is the only way that we're going to get people off the street, is for you, the public, to do your duty and not be afraid. And all these things are anonymous. They will make sure you are protected. So it's just so important. From this case to many other cases, it's just so important. If you know something, say something. If you see something, say something.
Yes.
I mean, we can't say that enough. So, okay, well, we're going to let JP get into some cases this morning.
I have tabbed where we were at. If I'm not badly mistaken, I think we were over at Keith Lamar Johnson. This case is from January 15th, 2012. Officers responded to 1009 Randolph Street South in Wilson in reference to a cardiac arrest call. Keith Johnson was located inside the residence with multiple stab wounds. EMS pronounced him deceased on the scene. So apparently it came in initially as a cardiac call, but when they arrived on the scene, the gentleman had been stabbed multiple times.
Wonder who called.
Yeah.
Makes me wonder who called.
Yeah.
I mean, to be sure, if he had been stabbed multiple times, I don't know that he would have been in the shape to call. So it makes you wonder if somebody else was in the house or what. So, anyway, 1009 Randolph Street in Wilson. If you know anything, we just paid out a case, cash money, within just a few days. We handed him cash money, or her. We don't know who the person was.
That's why I was hoping Edgecombe County was going to be here.
I was hoping they would too, and hopefully they'll be here next week. And we're going to do some detail in that case because we're so proud of, we say we're proud of the work we do at Team Cold Case and the K-Files, but who we're really, really proud of is that person that came forward. Yes. So if you know anything about any of these cases that we're talking about, please give the authorities a call, or the hotline 406-6736. Don't forget Crime Stoppers 977-1111. And it doesn't matter whether it's a Wilson case, Halifax case, Twin County Crime Stoppers will contact the proper agency. So that's not a problem.
Not meaning to change the subject, but a lot of people have messaged me and called me since the debate the other night going, hey man, what is going on about the pet thing in Ohio?
Yes.
I said, well, let me understand. Let me explain something to you. It's a word. If you notice, the other side keeps using the word pet. There has not been any reports of any pets taken and used for food. They're not saying animals, they're saying pets. Overnight, the governor of Ohio has activated all state troopers they're responding to this city. So something is going on with the Haitian immigrants in this town. They're living in the woods. They're living in encampments.
Golly.
There has been reports of like ducks, geese, other animals like that missing from parks. Has there been anybody's pet taken and used for food or whatever? I don't think so. Have animals gone missing for the purpose of food? Yes, they have. So it's a play on words. There is something going on in Springfield. The governor has activated law enforcement, had them respond to kind of bring peace and accountability to that community. It's kind of like an all hands on deck type situation. The governor does not send in law enforcement like that if there's not an issue.
Oh yeah, that's right.
But you've got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people that don't have shelter. They're living in the woods. They need something to eat. There's something going on there, in other words. So anyway, there's there's something there.
Wow.
Something. It is. The next case we're going to talk about is Emmanuel Robert Gent. Emmanuel Robert Gent. This case is from May 21, 2012. Emmanuel, who was 26 at the time, was killed outside of a friend's home at 1414 Branch Street in Rocky Mount around 10 o'clock p.m. EMS arrived and pronounced Gent dead on the scene. The friend advised that two men, one wearing a red bandana over his face, a white t-shirt, and black pants, and another male wearing all black approached them in an attempted robbery. They were both seen leaving the area on foot. Again, this was May 21st, 2012. Emmanuel, 26, killed outside of a friend's home at 1414 Branch Street around 10 o'clock.
We get a lot of cases around that area.
Yeah. Because that's near Sammy's Convenient Mart, right?
Yeah.
It's like a street or two over.
Right behind it. Yeah, 2 or 3 streets
Mm-hmm.
behind it. Wow. Well, if you know anything, you know the drill. Emmanuel Robert Gent, 1414 Branch Street. And this happened, as JP said, in 2012, May of 2012.
This next case, Ladarius Vontae Sutton. Ladarius Vontae Sutton. June 7th, 2012. Officers responded to 407B Roundtree Street West in Wilson in reference to shots fired. Upon arrival, Ladarius Sutton was located suffering from a gunshot wound. Sutton was transported to Wilson Medical Center for treatment, where he was later pronounced deceased. Ladarius Vontae Sutton, June 7th, 2012. 407B Roundtree Street, Southwest in Wilson. That's downtown. I believe that's near White's Tire Service.
I think so.
In reference to shots fired. He had been shot, and he died on the way to the hospital, unfortunately. So if you know anything about that case, please reach out to us. Reach out to Wilson City Police Department.
And remember, another reason to do this is to give closure to these families. I mean, it's hard not knowing what happened, who did this to your loved one, and knowing they're still on the street. I mean, that's hard. Okay.
All right. This next case is involved Stanley Thomas. Stanley Thomas. December 19th, 2012, around 8:30 p.m., Stanley Thomas, who was 24 at the time, from Halifax County, was on the 1500 block of Tadlock Avenue in Rocky Mount when he was shot and killed. Shot and killed, 1500 block, Tadlock Avenue, December 19th, 2012, around 8:30 p.m.
We don't have a lot of detail on that one at all, so. And I don't even know where Tadlock Avenue is.
I have never heard of that.
I haven't either. I don't have any idea. So, but he was from Halifax County, and he happened to be in Rocky Mount for some reason, and
in December, it's good and dark at 8:30.
It is. It really is. Wow. Okay.
All right, the next case here is Richard William Joyner. Richard William Joyner, December 28th, 2012, around 9:15 p.m., Rocky Mount Police was called to 346 Paul Street in Rocky Mount regarding a person who was found shot in a residence. Richard William Joyner, who was 68, was found by his nephew and a female in the den area in the rear of his home. He had been shot and had died of his injuries. Richard William Joyner, December 28, 2012, 9 o'clock, 346 Paul Street. Found shot inside of his residence. He was 68.
Found by his nephew.
See, I'm not familiar with Paul Street.
Paul Street turns off of Nashville Road, close to Edwards Barbecue.
Okay.
Used to be the old
Barbershop,
Edwards.
huh?
Yes.
Yeah.
Turns right there, close to Boone Street.
Okay.
Paul Street's right there at Boone Street. So, anyway, if you know anything, people talk. They talk. And this last case that we solved, that proved that, because he was told by his friend, I guess he bragged. I went and I did this, and probably bragging about it, and this guy's conscience, it was two things probably. I'm just guessing. Conscience and money. He wanted the money. So there was two reasons why he called us. So
money is always a great motivator.
it is. It really is. So if you know anything about Richard William Joyner on Paul Street, his death, please, if somebody has bragged to you or a friend, the friend's not going to know that you called. They're not. It is totally anonymous. So
The next case here is Quan Dion Johnson. Quan Dion Johnson. This case is from January 11th, 2013. Officers responded to 1108 Churchill Avenue Southwest in Wilson in reference to a family member calling to report that their brother had been shot. Officers arrived and found Quan Dion Johnson deceased at the residence. Here we have talked about 1, 2, 3 cases that involved Wilson. And just like Fighting Crime has recently shared, for whatever reason,
they don't cooperate.
They don't want to cooperate, share information with them. We've invited them on the show. I have numerous times myself.
And we do have a track record. We are solving crimes. This is not an easy endeavor. We knew that when we took it on. We knew we were not going to solve a crime every month. We knew that. Because people are afraid to talk. They really are. And so our goal here is to let people know that it is anonymous, and you can call and you can give families closure. You can get people off the street so that this doesn't happen to your family down the line. So we knew this was not an easy endeavor, but we're proud to say that this is the 3rd or 4th case that we have solved. And so, Wilson should cooperate with us. Halifax, they'll cooperate. They don't come a lot, but they do cooperate. And Nash and Edgecombe and Rocky Mount have been cooperating. So it looks like Wilson would want a little help with some of these cases.
It's an added free tool in their tool bag that gets results. We have a proven track record.
Yeah, we do.
It's a free tool.
It is.
I don't
understand it, but I think we need to revisit the Wilson Police Department. I think we'd be a little bit more successful than we have been with the Sheriff's Department.
Yeah.
But anyway.
And here's another Wilson case. This case is from May 15th, 2013, Isaac Jr. Johnson. Isaac Jr. Johnson. Officers responded to the 300 block of Maury Street in Wilson after a person reported seeing another person lying in the street and not breathing. Upon arrival, officers located Isaac Jr. Johnson, who had been assaulted. Johnson was taken to the hospital for treatment, and he later died from complications associated with the assault. So he was basically beat to death.
Absolutely. And would you agree that most of these cases like this were about drugs?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Now, not all, but most of these cases involve drugs somewhere down the line. Trying to get money for drugs, maybe the person didn't pay up, owed him some money for drugs, didn't produce the drugs he was supposed to bring, or whatever. But a lot of these cases involve drugs.
I agree.
It's a shame. So if you know anything about Isaac Jr. Johnson in Wilson, call the number. There's the number right there. Or call the 977-1111. And we've got to go to break. We'll be right back right after this. Okay, and welcome back. All right, we're talking about some Wilson cases this morning, quite a few Wilson cases this morning. But I think our next one is going to be in Rocky Mount.
The next case is Brian Tariq Freeman. Brian Tariq Freeman. This case is from January 18th, 2014. Brian Freeman, who was 15 at the time, was killed while walking to a friend's house on the 700 block of Highland Avenue in Rocky Mount around midnight. When Rocky Mount police arrived, they found Brian laying in a yard at the corner of Highland and Woodland Avenue. EMS was on scene and advised that he had passed away. A 14-year-old juvenile was with Brian as he was walking and stated that a brown or tan Toyota Camry had drove by them and the occupant just started firing random shots.
Wow. We get a lot of cases in that area too. Highland Avenue is close to Grand Avenue, Atlantic Avenue, over that way. Right off of, I think, Grand Avenue. But anyway, if you know anything, if you've seen something, well, this was in 2014. But as we say all the time, if you know it, you know it. Whether it's from 2014, it doesn't matter. If you know, you know. So,
folks,
you haven't forgotten something like that.
14 and 15 years old, midnight.
Had his whole life ahead of him.
Folks, know where your youngins are at. 14, 15 years old at midnight. I don't mean this in any way negative towards the victim. You need to have your youngins at home.
Exactly.
Your kids need to be at the house at midnight. 14 years old, they need to be at the house.
Absolutely. What in the world?
And if they're sneaking out, I understand, but you need to take corrective measures to ensure something like that doesn't happen. And here's a reason why. Here's a perfect reason why. If your youngins are at home, you know where they're at, you know what they're doing. These kids should have been at home.
You're not up to anything good when you're 14 years old and you're out at midnight. Something bad could very well happen. And you might sneak out of my house one time, but that will be the last one.
You know, I never did that. I have never done that as a
Well,
child.
I never thought about it.
I would have never
Yeah, I
thought
wouldn't
about it.
have-
I was scared of my mama.
No, yeah, I would have never thought about doing that. So, you know, nowhere, as JP said, that's good advice. Know where your children are, because something like this could happen to them. So, it is a shame to end your life at 14 years old. I mean, that's just a shame because you're with the wrong crowd.
And look, just like the case we were talking about in Weldon, these kids could have just been misidentified and targeted because the bad guy in this case thought they were somebody else. Or it could be
exactly
just
right.
totally random.
Yeah.
You know, it's a sad and bad situation. 14, 15 years old, shot at. I mean, it could just as easily have been the 14-year-old killed as well.
At that age, you cannot see your future. You cannot see the bad things that can happen to you either. You can't see these things. All you care about is what you're doing at the moment and the crowd you're running around with and things like that. So anyway, a sad case.
This next case, Devontae Jaquan Ebert. Devontae Jaquan Ebert, June 13th, 2014. Police officers were called to the 700 block of Branch Street in Rocky Mount around 12:30 a.m. after Rocky Mount police got reports of gunfire in the area. When officers arrived, they found two people suffering from gunshot wounds. Both were taken to the hospital. Devontae Jaquan Ebert, who was 18 years old at the time, died at the hospital of his injuries. The other victim, a 17-year-old, was treated and released. A short time later, two other victims, ages 21 and 26, arrived at the hospital with injuries from the same incident. They were also treated and released. You know, this is near the other
Yeah. Another Branch Street case.
that it happened just after midnight, the other case. These were back in 13 and 14, but
Yeah, 21 and 26 years old were the victims. Devontae Ebert.
Devontae was 18. The 17-year-old was treated and released, and then two more rolled in, 21, 20.
So there
It's
were
just
three.
Four.
Yeah. Yeah, 17,
Four injured
18.
in this. One died.
Good grief. Well, you know, I have my feelings about guns. You know, people say all the time, and I hate to, I'm not trying to make the show political, but they say all the time, we need to get rid of guns, get rid of guns. Do you not think these people would have had guns anyway? They would have got them guns. They would have found them guns. They would have had guns anyway. I want a gun to protect me from stuff like this.
Rarely do bad guys go to the local gun shop and buy guns.
Yeah, that's
It
right.
just
They're
doesn't
going to get
happen.
them anyway.
They're going to buy them from the person who broke in your house.
That's right.
Or they're going to be the ones that broke into a house or a store or a
Yep.
car. Most of these, I guarantee you, most of the guns used in this book in crimes were stolen
Yeah, absolutely.
or obtained illegally. Guarantee it.
Totally agree. Okay, well, that's all for today on the K-Files. Join us back next week. We'll have some more cases for you. Hopefully, we'll have the details on the case that was solved. And hot and now, if something comes up, we hope it don't, especially like the one in Halifax County. So make it a great day, everybody. Thank you, JP,
Yes, ma'am.
for being with me, and we'll see you next week.